Story 1. The Night Trails of Terror. The summer air was thick with the scent of pine and anticipation as I celebrated my 19th birthday. Unlike most, I shunned extravagant parties, preferring the quiet company of family or a few close friends. This year, after a subdued dinner with my parents and siblings, my friends Jay, Carl, and Joey had other plans. They texted me relentlessly, insisting we mark the occasion with something adventurous. At 19, we were too young for bars, and fake IDs were a risk we didn't take. Instead, Jay proposed an audacious idea: night off-roading in his rugged Jeep through the sprawling trails of Willow Creek State Park, a half-hour drive from our suburban homes. Willow Creek was a vast expanse of untamed wilderness, its trails winding through dense forests and rocky clearings. By day, hikers and families roamed its paths, but at night it transformed into a shadowy realm where rules blurred. Jay had ventured there before, slipping past the park's flimsy barriers after dark. "No one's out there past sunset," he assured us, his voice brimming with confidence. The plan was simple: drive deep into the woods, hotbox the Jeep with Carl's stash of weed, and pass around Joey's handle of cheap vodka to toast my birthday. Jay, ever the responsible driver, would abstain from the alcohol, ensuring we'd make it home unscathed. As the July sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the landscape, we piled into the Jeep. The air was warm, the kind of sticky heat that clung to your skin, and the sky was a deep indigo, not yet fully black. It was around 9 p.m. when we reached the park's entrance, a gravel lot cordoned off with orange cones. No security guards patrolled the area, and the absence of other cars emboldened us. Jay hopped out, moved a cone aside, and we slipped through, the Jeep's tires crunching against the uneven ground. The narrow access road stretched before us, flanked by towering trees that seemed to lean inward, their branches forming a natural canopy. The headlights carved a path through the darkness, illuminating the occasional darting shadow of a nocturnal creature. After a few minutes, the road opened into a wide parking lot, bordered by woods on 3 sides and a cluster of baseball fields and a playground on the 4th. Jay navigated with practiced ease, steering us toward a trailhead he knew well, a path officially meant for hikers, but wide enough for his Jeep, or so he claimed. The trail was a roller coaster of bumps and dips, the Jeep lurching over rocks and roots. Carl lit a joint, the pungent smoke filling the cabin as we passed it around, laughter bubbling up with each exhale. Joey cracked open the vodka, mixing it with warm soda from a gas station run earlier. The music blared, a pulsing hip-hop playlist that drowned out the sounds of the forest. For a while, it felt like the perfect birthday, wild, free, and just reckless enough to feel alive. Jay drove deeper into the woods, the trail narrowing until branches scraped the Jeep's sides. He switched on the high beams, the light slicing through the darkness to reveal gnarled roots and the occasional glint of animal eyes. We were miles from civilization now, cocooned in the heart of the park. Jay pulled over in a small clearing, killed the engine, and doused the headlights. The sudden silence was jarring, broken only by the faint chirping of crickets and the rustle of leaves in the breeze. We sat there passing the joint and the vodka, the music now a low hum to avoid drawing attention. Then a sound pierced the night, a high-pitched, guttural scream that sent a chill down my spine. We froze, the joint dangling from Carl's fingers. The vodka bottle paused mid-pass. "What the hell was that?" Joey whispered, his voice barely audible. Jay turned off the music, and we strained to listen. The scream didn't repeat, but the forest felt alive now, its silence heavy with unseen watchers. "Probably a fox," Jay said, though his tone lacked conviction. He flicked the headlights back on, the beams sweeping across the trail, but revealing nothing. Uneasy, we decided to move. Jay drove a bit farther, the Jeep bouncing over uneven terrain. We stopped again, trying to recapture the earlier vibe, but the mood had shifted. The music stayed low, and our laughter was forced. Carl mixed drinks, and Joey, ever the clown, led a raucous rendition of "Happy Birthday" that echoed through the trees. I stepped out to relieve myself, wandering a few feet off the trail into the dense underbrush. The forest was pitch black beyond the Jeep's glow, and as I stood there, I heard it, crisp, deliberate footsteps crunching through the leaves, too heavy to be an animal. I bolted back to the Jeep, my heart pounding. "I heard footsteps," I gasped, slamming the door. Jay flipped on the headlights, and that's when we saw her, a woman standing on the trail's edge, barely 10 feet away. Her hoodie was pulled up, obscuring her face, and she stood motionless, like a statue carved from the night. We stared, expecting her to move or speak, but she remained still, an eerie silhouette against the trees. Jay rolled down his window, his voice shaking. "You okay?" he called. The woman didn't respond. Instead, she backed slowly into the woods, her movements deliberate until the darkness swallowed her. Panic set in, but before we could process it, Carl's voice cut through the tension. "Guys, we're surrounded." His words were slurred but laced with terror. We followed his gaze and my blood ran cold. In the dim glow of the headlights, we saw them. 3, maybe 4 figures, all in hoodies, standing just off the trail. They were spaced out, encircling the Jeep, their faces hidden but their eyes glinting in the light. They didn't move, didn't speak, just watched us with an intensity that felt predatory. Then a scream from Carl made us whip around. A man stood directly behind the Jeep, his face illuminated by the red glow of the taillights. His expression was blank, almost lifeless, but his presence was menacing. "Go! Get us out of here!" I shouted. Jay didn't hesitate. He slammed the Jeep into drive, the tires spinning as we tore down the trail. The figures didn't pursue, but their stillness was somehow worse, as if they knew something we didn't. The trail seemed endless, each bump and turn amplifying our fear. We didn't speak, didn't breathe, until the dirt gave way to pavement, and we burst out of the park through a secondary exit. Jay, the only one sober, declared we were going straight home. No one argued. In the days that followed, we tried to rationalize it. Maybe they were just other teens messing around in the woods like us. But the hoodies on a sweltering July night, the scream that wasn't a fox, the way they stared, none of it added up. We never returned to Willow Creek, and the memory of that night lingers like a shadow, a reminder that some adventures come with a price. Story 2. The Princess Party Peril. My little sister's 5th birthday was supposed to be a day of joy, a celebration of her infectious giggle and boundless imagination. My parents had booked a princess-themed party at the Rose Petal Tea Room, a quaint venue known for its frilly decor and elaborate children's events. The place was a pastel dreamscape with lace tablecloths, porcelain teacups, and staff dressed as fairy tale royalty. For a kindergartner like Lily, it was paradise. For me, a self-conscious 6th grader teetering on the edge of adolescence, it was a nightmare. At nearly 12, I was obsessed with appearing mature. The thought of donning a tiara or curtsying with the other kids mortified me. "I'm not a baby," I huffed to my mom, Gloria, who sighed but didn't push. Instead, I carved out a corner for myself in the hallway outside the main party room, sinking into a plush armchair with my Nintendo DS. The sounds of giggles and clinking teacups drifted through the door, but I was lost in the pixelated world of Pokemon, determined to avoid any association with the kiddie festivities. The hallway was quiet, its floral wallpaper and dim lighting giving it a cozy, almost sleepy atmosphere. I'd been playing for maybe an hour when a shadow fell across my screen. I looked up to see a woman standing before me, her presence startling in the otherwise empty corridor. She was in her late 30s with neatly styled blonde hair and a warm smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Her outfit, a crisp blouse and tailored slacks, seemed out of place amidst the tea room's whimsy. "Hey, you're Gloria's kid, right?" she asked, her voice smooth but oddly deliberate. My mom's name was indeed Gloria, a fact not many strangers would know. I nodded, cautious but not alarmed. "Yeah, that's me." Her smile widened. "I'm your Aunt Sarah. You were probably too little to remember me from the last time we met." She launched into a monologue about how much I'd grown, asking about school and my favorite subjects. Her tone was familiar, the kind of practiced warmth I'd heard from distant relatives at family reunions. I relaxed, assuming she was one of my mom's cousins or a friend from her college days. My family was large, and I was used to these interactions. Adults I barely knew gushing over my height or report card. Sarah's conversation took a turn when she mentioned Lily's birthday gift. "I brought a dollhouse for your sister," she said, her eyes gleaming. It's huge, absolutely gorgeous. But it's still in my car, and I could use a strong kid like you to help carry it in." She paused, then added, "I also brought an extra cake, chocolate with buttercream frosting. If you help, you can have the first slice." The offer was tempting. I love chocolate cake, and the idea of being helpful appealed to my budding sense of responsibility. But something nagged at me. Why hadn't she brought the dollhouse in already? And why was she asking me, a kid, instead of an adult? I'd been drilled on stranger danger since kindergarten, the warnings echoing in my mind. Don't go anywhere with someone you don't know. Don't trust adults who offer gifts. Yet Sarah seemed so convincing, her knowledge of my mom's name disarming my skepticism. Plus, she was a woman, and in my naive reasoning, that made her less threatening. "Okay," I said hesitantly, setting my DS on the chair. "Let's go." Sarah's face lit up, and she led me toward the tea room's back exit, a heavy door that opened into a small parking lot. The evening air was cool, a stark contrast to the tea room's warmth. Her car, a nondescript sedan, was idling at the far end of the lot, its engine humming softly. A man sat in the driver's seat, his face obscured by the tinted window. Sarah must have sensed my hesitation because she quickly added, "That's your Uncle Dennis. He's helping me with the gifts." Her voice was upbeat, but there was an edge to it now, a urgency that hadn't been there before. "Come on, let's hurry before the cake frosting melts." I stopped walking. The car's running engine, the empty parking lot, the man who hadn't acknowledged me. It all felt wrong. "Why didn't Dennis carry the dollhouse?" I asked, my voice trembling. Sarah's smile faltered, and for a moment, her eyes flashed with something dark. Anger, maybe, or desperation. "He's got a bad back," she snapped. "Now come on, we need to get this done." Her tone was no longer friendly. It was commanding. She reached for my jacket sleeve, but I yanked my arm back, my heart racing. "Stop!" I shouted louder than I intended. Sarah froze, her face contorting with fury. Behind her, the car door creaked open, and I saw the man, Dennis, start to step out, his silhouette tall and imposing. Before he could move closer, a sound shattered the tension. My mom's voice, frantic and piercing, calling my name from inside the tea room. "Emma! Emma, where are you?" My aunt's voice joined hers, equally alarmed. Sarah's eyes widened, and in an instant, she dove into the passenger seat. The car peeled out of the lot, tires screeching, as I sprinted back through the door. I collided with my mom in the hallway, her arms wrapping around me as I blurted out the story. Tears stung my eyes, not from sadness, but from the dawning realization of how close I'd come to danger. My aunt, a no-nonsense woman, stormed to the tea room staff, demanding an immediate lockdown. The party was halted, and the children were gathered in the main room for a head count. Thankfully, no one else was missing. The police arrived within minutes, their flashing lights casting eerie shadows through the tea room's windows. I recounted everything. Sarah's appearance, her knowledge of my mom's name, the idling car, and Dennis's silent presence. The officers were kind but grim, jotting down every detail. They promised to follow up, but weeks turned into months, and we heard nothing. Sarah and Dennis, or whatever their real names were, vanished into the ether. To this day, I wonder how Sarah knew my mom's name. Was she watching us, stalking the party for an opportunity? The thought chills me, but I'm grateful for the gut instinct that kept me from her car. Lily's 5th birthday, meant to be a day of magic, became a lesson in vigilance, one I'll carry forever. Story 3. The party that never ended my 21st birthday was supposed to be legendary. My uncle, a wealthy bachelor with a sprawling waterfront mansion, offered me his backyard for the occasion while he was away on a month-long business trip. The property was a paradise, a massive lawn sloping toward the bay, a sparkling infinity pool, and a state-of-the-art surround sound system built into the landscaping. It was the perfect setting for the kind of blowout I'd dreamed of since I was a kid sneaking sips of beer at family barbecues. I went all out, inviting every friend I had and encouraging them to bring their own crews with one rule: BYOB. The plan was to keep it strictly outdoors, preserving my uncle's pristine house. I set up at 8 p.m., plugging my burner phone into the speakers and blasting a curated party playlist, hip-hop, EDM, and throwback anthems that kept the energy high. The backyard filled quickly, fairy lights twinkling above the crowd as beer cans clinked and laughter echoed across the water. But the party grew beyond my control. My friends arrived with +1s who brought their own +1s, and soon strangers were streaming through the gates in groups, their faces unfamiliar, but their vibes celebratory. By 10 p.m., the backyard was a sea of bodies, easily 80 people, maybe more, dancing, swimming, and spilling drinks on the manicured grass. I tried to monitor the house, stationed near the back door to ensure no one ventured inside except to use the bathroom. But as the birthday boy, I was constantly pulled away, posing for photos, accepting shots, and basking in the chaos I'd created. The night blurred into a montage of excess. The music thumped, the pool glowed under the moonlight, and the air was thick with the scent of chlorine and weed. I was having the time of my life, but a nagging anxiety gnawed at me. What if someone trashed the house? What if my uncle found out? Around 2 a.m., the inevitable happened. Police lights flashed in the distance, and sirens cut through the music. Neighbors had complained, and the cops shut us down, ordering everyone to disperse. I kept a small group of close friends to help clean up, but by 3 a.m., it was just me and Rob, my oldest buddy, who was so drunk he could barely stand. My uncle had been clear, no overnight guests, but Rob was in no state to drive, and I figured one person crashing on the couch wouldn't hurt. I guided him inside, locked the gates and back door, and left him sprawled in the living room, already snoring. Exhausted, I checked the downstairs bathroom, surprisingly clean, save for a few stray cans, and headed upstairs. The house was a labyrinth of luxury, with dual staircases sweeping up to a balcony overlooking the foyer, leading to a warren of bedrooms and bathrooms. I brushed my teeth with my finger in one of the pristine upstairs bathrooms, and then collapsed into a guest room bed, the alcohol pulling me into a deep, dreamless sleep. An hour later, I jolted awake, my stomach churning. I barely made it to the bathroom before vomiting, the mix of tequila, vodka, and who knows what else burning my throat. After rinsing my mouth, I stumbled onto the balcony, the house dark and silent. Then a sound, soft but unmistakable footsteps echoing from the foyer below. My heart skipped. "Rob," I called, leaning over the railing. A figure stood in the shadows, motionless, their face obscured by the darkness. I felt their gaze, cold and piercing, though I couldn't see their eyes. Before I could speak again, another sound broke the silence, snoring, loud and rhythmic, coming from the living room. Rob was still on the couch. The figure in the foyer wasn't him. My pulse surged as I heard more footsteps, this time from the kitchen. There was more than one intruder. "Who is that?" I said, my voice cracking, hoping it was just a stray partygoer who'd hidden when the cops arrived. No response, only the creak of floorboards. Fear took over, but I couldn't abandon Rob. I dialed his number, praying he'd pick up. Someone answered, but all I heard was heavy breathing, no words. I hung up, my hands shaking, and called 911, whispering to the operator as I locked myself in the bedroom. The doorknob rattled, followed by a soft knock. I froze, clutching the phone. The operator advised me to stay put, assuring me police were en route. "Don't announce I'm here," he warned when I asked if I should threaten the intruders with the call. About Rob, he hesitated, then said, "If they think he's asleep, they might leave him alone." Minutes stretched into eternity, each sound from downstairs amplifying my terror. Finally, the operator confirmed the police were entering through the unlocked back door, left open by the intruders, I realized with a sinking feeling. I crept downstairs, waking Rob, who was groggy and confused. The police searched the house, finding no one but noting signs of disturbance. Drawers ajar, a cabinet door open. Nothing seemed missing, but I wasn't sure what my uncle kept in the house. They stationed an officer outside for the night, and Rob and I tried to sleep, though I barely closed my eyes. Weeks later, my uncle asked about his Cartier watch, which had vanished from a kitchen drawer. I confessed everything, bracing for his anger. He didn't demand repayment, but his trust was broken. The house was off limits for future parties, a consequence I couldn't argue with. Whoever those intruders were, They'd turn my 21st birthday into a nightmare, a cautionary tale about the dangers of letting chaos reign unchecked.